Osheti Shakon, which is the 7 council fires. And one of the things that I find is nobody really understands what the 7 council fires are. I was sitting in a meeting down in Pierre here a couple months ago, and this Ogwala said, only the Lakota are Osheti Shakon. And I was like, okay. And then these Dakotas said, no, only the Dakotas are Osheti Shakon. I was like, okay. So the Osheti Shakon was our government function. It's not our nation, it's our government function. We established a government. The government started in Mille Lacs. And it came from a man whose name was Bluewater, who had a vision of the Big Dipper. And in the Big Dipper you can watch as the 7 stars are there. Each one of them represent a campfire according to his vision. And in that campfire, if you look at the Dipper, you can see Tokahe as he emerges from one cave in the stars. That's how Osheti Shakon came, from a vision from Bluewater, who is Sisitan. And that vision we're recording in 1300. Our mother nation is the Isante, or the Santee, and all the other nations break off from them. So in the estimated about 1500, there were only the Dakota. Then we know that the Kiaksa band, they had a dispute. And what are disputes always about? Women. This man wanted to marry this girl, you know, he was eyeing her and thought, oh, I like her. But his parents said, you're related to her. In Indian country, you know, your 27th cousin over there related to your in-laws, your relative. You're related. But they liked each other. So they broke off. And they moved south. And from them created the Lakota Nation. The Lakota Nation broke off from the Mdewakanton to the Kiaksa band. And the Kiaksa band established themselves as the Lakota. How cool is that? And I know this is the history of Standing Rock, but unless everybody knows who the people are that live here, I thought it is so important to tell people who we are. So everything in our lives are dictated by this. The camp circle. Who lives where? And within that camp circle, each of our nations have their own. So who camps in what spot? It has always been very distinct because that is a right. And I'll talk about that sometime today, about that right and where you camp. And each one, and the reason why I put up the Dakota and the Teton is to show you each group determines who camps where. And we continue to camp in that structure. I think the last time I had the honor of camping in our traditional structures is when we went to the Little Bighorn, all the tribes. And we camped in our distinct spots. So it's not something of the past, it's something very current. And then when we come down to, the individual bands. There are 5 bands on Standing Rock. The Sihasapa, the Hunkpapa, the Hunkpatina, the Ihunktua, and the Pabaska. Upper and Lower Yanktonai, the Blackfeet, the Hunkpapa, and the Cutheads. So there's 5 bands that live here on Standing Rock. So this is the Hunkpapa. And if you go through, each one of them has a chief. And I do have the information on which chiefs belong to which band. And then this is the Hunkpatina camp circle. And part of my family comes from the Burnt Face. And this is the Upper Yanktonai. And part of my family Cutheads. These circles and where we camp and who we are and how we're divided is very important. One of the things at the meeting yesterday, one of the elders got up and said, Every person should know who you are and where you come from. Where do you fit in that structure? Which Geospire do you belong to?